Hello, I'm very excited to be here in the Vale of Belvoir, actually in Belvoir Castle. And the reason for that is that as a small child I grew up within view of the castle. But more excitingly is the fact that in the archives here they've discovered the last known plans of Capability Brown. And I'm here today to make an appeal to you, and that is that in the forthcoming tercentenary year of his birth we erect a statue to Capability Brown. There are two great masters of landscape architecture. There's André Le Nôtre in 17th century France and Capability Brown in 18th century England. Le Nôtre's gardens were great shows of wealth and power, but it needed an army of workers to keep the garden looking in tip-top condition. But by the beginning of the early 18th century, the mood had changed, and it's characterised by the famous quote from William Kent, was that he let the fence and all of nature was a garden. At Stowe, he worked with Capability Brown on the garden, and it was Capability Brown who went on and devised this wonderful landscapes that we see today. Placid lakes reflecting the ever-changing skies, acres of grass neatly nibbled by herds of sheep and deer, carefully placed clumps and belts of trees to accentuate the contours and give boundless vistas, and by the revealing and hiding of garden follies, statues and temples. Some 4 months before he died, Brown wrote to his client, the 4th Duke of Rutland at Belvoir, and he said, "Since it has denied us to live long, let us do something to show that we have lived." And he certainly did that. He persuaded some 170 estate owners in the country to build great landscapes that they would never see mature to perfection. This amazing achievement has been a sheer joy to succeeding generations and has become our vision of the English countryside. It's been said that the English landscape garden is one of our great contributions to world culture, and I wouldn't disagree with that. Beside the 170 gardens that we have in this country, copies have popped up in the most unlikely places, such as St. Petersburg and Seville. But why don't we have a statue to Capability Brown in England? Over in France, Le Nôtre had numerous statues, busts, engravings and paintings. His great English counterpart has only 2 portraits, one in a private collection and one in the National Gallery. This is a travesty, and what better time to put this right than in the tercentenary of Capability Brown's birth. Laury Dizengremel is an award-winning international sculptor who's done busts, statues and monumental works for individual cities and countries all over the world. She also happens to be artist in residence at Belvoir Castle. Interestingly, it is on this estate that the 11th Duchess of Rutland recently discovered in the castle archives the last known plans of Capability Brown. They were presented to the Duke in the late 1700s, started but never completed. In the past 2 years, with the help of Alan Tishmarsh, the Duchess has begun the process of realising the completion of Brown's last project, the first part of which was documented in a 3-part national TV programme, Tishmarsh on Brown, which was recently aired. Naturally, Laurie, immersed in all this, asked the question,
are there any sculptures of Capability Brown?
To which the answer is no.
Is there anything at all?
No, none at all. But we can do something about this. So let me introduce you to our sculptor, Laurie. She sounds American, but she's a French woman who's lived in England for 30 years.
Thank you, Richard. I am really honoured to work with you to create a lasting tribute to Brown. Numerous events are planned next year throughout England to celebrate the 300th anniversary of his birth. Getting this sculpture made and unveiled and part of that calendar will become a reality only if you pledge to back the project. Just as public artwork was most often funded back in the 18th century by public subscription, we're asking you to commit and subscribe with a donation today to make this project happen. This will allow the creation of a historically accurate life-size sculpture of Brown, cast it in lost wax bronze, and sited securely in a public space. As a donor, your name will feature on a gifted to the nation plaque, unless you wish to remain anonymous. Because he was a man of the people and not a fashion dandy, we see this statue of Brown not elevated on a plinth, but placed directly on the ground, where the public can interact with this most famous English gardener, strolling along in his 18th century garb. So please, now is the time to lie back, think of England, and help make this sculpture of Lancelot Capability Brown.